Hello everybody, welcome to Percussion Axiom TV. I am your host Tom Burritt, and we are finally back with episode 97. Been thinking long and hard, I don't even remember when the last show was, other than it was episode 96, I think. And I apologize for being out of this thing for so long, but you know, there are times in your life when you need to take a break from some things. It's been a very interesting 2 or 3 months in my life. Late November, I lost my dad to a long fight with cancer, and obviously that's been a long and difficult road, as you would expect. And so anyway, I love you, Dad. I miss you, but it's time to move on. And in the interest of that, and by the way, I haven't been doing nothing since late November, but it just feels right to move forward with this. So I'm super excited to be back doing an episode. So onward. With episode 97, we're going to start looking at what I've been writing quite a bit about lately, and that's Lee Howard Stevens' approach to Bach in his new book, the Bach Cello Suites, which I wrote about last week at Drum Chatter. So go back to Drum Chatter and search my name. If it's 2 or 3 years from now, search Lee Stevens, you'll find it. It's a good introductory post to what we're going to get into here. Just wrote a real short review of the book. Told you just a little bit about what you get when you buy it and what's in there. Outlined a few examples, that sort of thing. But today, what I wanted to do is talk a little bit more specifically about applying some of those ideas that he sort of presents. So I've been kind of working on for a while now, actually, the prelude to the to the fifth suite, the fifth cello suite, that is. And not long after starting, I read through Lee's book. I just got it, and it was sort of perfect timing, if you will. It's been a while since I played Bach. The last Bach I played was the Chaconne, which obviously was just a ridiculously mammoth project, but really fulfilling, and I learned just a ton. But I felt like it was time to get back to something, and so I had never learned any of the cello suites, so I thought it would be a good idea. And so I got Lee's book and started reading some of the stuff in the beginning, which is all text and sort of his thoughts. I guess it's a lot of things he covers in his summer marimba seminar on the topic, which is interesting. It's good to get some of that stuff out there. So the fifth suite prelude is a little unusual. It has a sort of adagio beginning part of the prelude and then moves into a more fugal nature part of the movement. And we're not going to talk about that one yet. We'll get into that hopefully in later part of the series. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the prelude and some of the things that Lee sort of brings up in his book. Two things, mostly mallet choice and the use of the roll. And I'm not necessarily following these things to a T, but I think I've adapted a few of his ideas that I think work really well, and I wanted to talk briefly about those today. So we'll start with mallet choice. Obviously, a person like Lee is very, and rightly so, very specific about his mallet choice. And he's going to recommend his own sticks, like I would if I was trying to do a similar thing, or like anybody would. But it's really based on, and he goes into the book more specifically, it's really based on producing a legato tone, producing a sound with as little or no contact as possible, allowing us to hear the last part of the sound of the stroke. And so it's really, devised around a loosely wound mallet that allows us to have a couple different articulations at least. Has no contact sound, and Lee's contention is that allows us to hear a more legato tone in general, allowing us to hear the length of ring of the bar a little bit more clearly. And he even contends at one point that a softer mallet will actually allow the bar to ring longer. So I haven't thought that one completely through, but it makes sense if you think about it. So what I've got here is a Lee Stevens 1 with 3 Lee Stevens 5s. These are actually very old, and I guard them with my life because they're worked in just beautifully, and I fear anything happening to them. But I think it's a good choice for this part of the movement. The next thing I want to get into are rolls. And, when do you roll in Bach? It's more of an issue, obviously, with the slower tempos like this fifth prelude suite has at the beginning of the adagio. And so there are a couple notes that I'm actually choosing to roll in a more traditional way, because I really feel like they need it, but not very much. Generally, I'm trying to stay away from it. And the deeper we get into the adagio slow movement of the prelude, you'll see that I'm rolling less. But I do explore one of the things that I think is really interesting he talks about, and that's specifically called the tickle roll. A little bit of a humorous, if you're familiar with Lee's writing, he's full of these sort of small little funny terminologies. But the tickle roll is essentially get the bar moving and just with the tip of the mallet try to keep the natural sustain of the bar going. So it's not really re-stimulating the bars as much. Let's just keep the natural ring of a bar that we just hit moving forward. All right, and the idea is that you're not really meant to hear any or at all any of the attacks in the tickle roll. So something like that might sound like this. And obviously, our earlier discussion on mallet choice is very important in this instance, because with a stick with any other yarn, practically, you're going to hear the repetitions of that roll. So that's just a really light, just keep the bar moving and the sound going in the direction. And you'll see when I play this in a little bit here exactly what that helps me do in a slow piece like this one. All right, so those are the two things that I wanted to cover today. So I just want to play a little bit of this for you. We'll see how much I play. We'll see how it goes. But you can see how I'm using these ideas. Of course, there's so many other things involved with even the slow part of this that we don't have time to get into today that I will hopefully cover in other episodes. But here's a little bit of that. So just how this idea, I think, works pretty well with the mallet choice and the tickle roll in particular. So there you have it, minus one major stick click on the E flat. I apologize for that, but hopefully you can see the touch roll and how it helped sort of move some of these inner line voices forward, keeping the motion of the music moving forward as well. So anyway, those are two of the things that he explores in the book. I hope it was clear in the presentation there. So I'm interested, as always, in your guys' thoughts. I don't just do this show to get my ideas out there. I do that, but especially I want yours. And so, there's a lot of contention and a lot of different opinions on these sort of things. And this is just one. I'm certainly not saying it's the best or the only one for sure. But I think it's one that works pretty well. I'd love your guys' thoughts on that. So the question of the episode is, what are your sort of Bachisms, if you will? What are some things you find work really well? And what are your reactions to what I'm bringing to the table here? So that's it for today's show. It's great to be back. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.